So that's working. Let's have a look at this microphone to see what we can do about that. Let's pop this out of here. Oh, what's happened there? Don't want to do that. There we go. There we go. Let's get more in the middle there. There we go. So am I in the middle of that? Yes. Good. We appear to be on and working, which is always good. Always nice. So let's do this. Change this to her. And yes, let's turn this down. And go to here, go to here, go to there. And I need someone to tell me if the oh god, I don't want that. Need someone to tell me if the microphone's working all right, because I think there's something wrong with it, which is a tad annoying. It's something that it came up a bit echoey last time. So fingers crossed it is working, but yeah, just a quick one today, because the little people might be back soon. So yeah, do make the most of it. Ask your questions. If you can double tap and get some likes going, that will always be massively appreciated. So I thank you in advance for that. But yeah, feel free to ask any questions you wish, and I will do my best to answer them. It's crazy times at the moment. I say crazy. It's busy. Can you give advice on how to start buying a home from a friend and his house is not on the market? If it's not on the market, there's part of the question missing there, I think. Is it normal for a mortgage application to take 8 weeks? I wouldn't say it's normal. It can happen. Have you had communication from the lender in this time, or your mortgage advisor, mortgage broker? I mean, it could be, do you have a particularly complex case, such as complex income or something like that? It could take up the time, but generally 8 weeks. My husband and I are 45 and 42. We need a mortgage of 100,000. Is it possible at our age? Age isn't a problem. No, not at all. You should be fine. It just depends on your income as to how much you can borrow, but age should be all right. How much money would you recommend to save for fees? So the conveyancing fee is probably about £1,800. If you want a survey, probably about 600. Then maybe some broker fees if you are having them. Are you hiring? Not at the moment. We are blessed with advisors and applications to look at. Do I have to pay stamp duty as a second-time buyer, or does it start in 2024? It depends at how much you are paying for a property. So everyone will pay stamp duty over a certain threshold. As a second-time buyer, currently that threshold sits at 250,000, but from the 1st of April next year, that's going down to 125,000. So you'll pay stamp duty on anything over that. My broker has applied for a mortgage through a company name with Paragon. The valuation was done today. Good stuff. The valuation was done. That's always good. How much money would you recommend saving first-time buyer deposit for a mortgage? The more deposit you can put in, the better, but you can buy from as little as a 5% deposit. There is also a product where you can buy with £5,000 deposit. So yeah, £5,000 or 5% is the minimum. Can you get a mortgage with car finance? Yes, you can. The car finance will just affect how much you can borrow. It's what we call a committed expenditure. When applying for a mortgage, do you have to have the deposit in the bank, as most will be gifted? Yes, I think when applying for a mortgage, well, to be honest, when you're applying for a mortgage, you've probably already put an offer in on a property, and the estate agents would have wanted to see proof of deposit. So yeah, you'll need it to be there. Is the 5% deposit a good thing? If you want to get onto the housing ladder sooner rather than later, then it's a good thing. you will pay a slightly higher rate. You will have to borrow more, and your repayments will be higher. But yeah, it's just a different way of looking at it. Are right to buy mortgages different from normal mortgages? Yes, they are. Can you pay all fees after the sale is completed? Not necessarily. It just depends what stage fees are need to be paid. For example, our fee is payable when we get you a formal mortgage offer. A survey fee would need to be paid time of survey. Other things, I mean, solicitors will be at completion. The estate agents will probably be at completion. I've won property, buy to let. If I sell, can I buy a residential property without paying stamp duty? It depends how much the purchase price is as to whether you're under the threshold or over the threshold for stamp duty. How much is stamp duty? Go onto Google and look for stamp duty calculator. It's dependent upon how much the purchase price is, and depending on what type of buyer you are as well. November the 7th prediction. So that's a couple of days. Possibly a base rate decrease, but don't get excited because it won't really affect fixed rate mortgages that much. If you can buy with as little as £5,000 or 5%, how much does your salary need to be? It depends how much you want to borrow. So your borrowing potential is worked out on how much you earn. Any way to avoid paying ERC if I want to change to buy to let from a 5-year fixed? No. Do you think Labour is a good thing for first-time buyers? I don't get dragged into politics. First-time buyer buying an ex-council house, would I pay stamp duty? If it's over a certain threshold, yes. Do you think 100% mortgages are a good idea? There's very few 100% mortgages out there. They are for specific needs and certain criteria. Again, the question of is it a good idea or not? I suppose it depends who you're asking and what their circumstances are. If you're asking someone who's been paying a massively high rent for a long time and they've struggled to save for a deposit, they will naturally say that 100% mortgage is a good idea, because it suits their needs. It's down to individual needs. First-time buyer, can I get a buy-to-let? Yes, you can. You can be a first-time buyer, first-time landlord. Do you think it's good to buy in the next year or two? If you want to buy a house, yes. Just change job for a higher salary. How many months are they going to ask for if I need to remortgage soon? Generally 3 months, but some lenders are happy with a signed employment contract. But as long as it's continuation of employment, you should be fine. How does buy-to-let work? So it's a type of mortgage that you take out, meaning that you're going to buy it and rent the property out. The rental income is largely going to pay, or should be paying, in theory, the outstanding or the monthly mortgage payment. So roughly that's how it works. Buy-to-let affordability is pretty much worked out on the income of the rent. Do I need to pay stamp duty if I'm currently buying a 50% shared ownership? Again, it depends on the property value. Do I have to have home insurance and life insurance in order to get a mortgage? No. The only compulsory insurance you need with a mortgage is buildings insurance. How much can you borrow for an unencumbered remortgage? Please give me an example. How much you can borrow is based on the income, how much you can afford to borrow. Best way to purchase a property with short-term loans, etc. Retain capital in order to renovate. Bridging. Short-term loans. When you mention short-term loans, you're probably looking at a bridging loan because it is short-term. It's designed to cover a gap and then you refinance it with a new mortgage, for example. Random one. What camera are you using? Okay, Z Network. Give a guess. What do you reckon? Oh, sod it. It's my iPhone. It's nothing too technical. It's my iPhone. Isn't bridging very expensive? It can be, yes, if used incorrectly. The longer you have bridging, the more expensive it tends to get. But it's designed to be very short term, and cover your short-term needs, and then you can get more affordable financing. But if used correctly, it's a good tool. Should I do 2-year fixed or 5-year? I can't advise on TikTok, I'm afraid. I need to know a lot more of your details and situation. Will having 2 late payments 2 months ago affect mortgage application? It will affect it. I wouldn't say it totally rules out a mortgage application, but it will have a bit of an impact, yeah. Make sure you use a broker that's got access to the whole of the market so that you'd be able to get access to a lender that will accommodate it, though. Since the stamp duty and such, is anyone even buying a house anymore? Yes, because there's only stamp duty thresholds haven't changed yet. The only change has been with the higher stamp duty rate when buying an additional property. Normal stamp duty remains as it is. I am looking for a broker and I don't know who to talk to. Talk to me if you want. I'm a mortgage broker. Feel free to get in touch. Waiting to upsize soon. Am I better off fully paying off credit card debt that is on 0% or saving? So when it comes to credit cards, it's irrelevant what the percentage rate is. So if you've got a 0% credit card, lenders will still look at it as if it's got a rate on it. It's just an existing debt that you need to pay back. So if you can, clear off your credit card balances, because then you don't have the committed expenditure when it comes to a mortgage application and affordability check. Does a low credit score impact a mortgage application? So credit score we don't look at. We look at the credit history. So we look at your credit file for the last 6 years and see what's on there, see what's behind the credit score. That's what will impact a mortgage application. Can I get a 25-year mortgage first time by the age of 47? Potentially, yeah, as long as you've got viable income. Yep. Is there a good online calculator to use online to work out sub-accounts to estimate new payments? What do you mean sub-accounts and new payments? If you're getting additional borrowing, you should be told how much the repayments are going to be. Does crypto gambling on my bank statements affect mortgage application? It depends how much gambling. If it's the odd flutter at the weekend, no. If it's persistent gambling, they might take a negative view on it. It just depends how much you're talking, really. Does stock and shares affect mortgage application? No, not really. No. I assume you mean investing in stocks and shares. No, it won't, because it's not something you have to do every single month. It's something you can stop doing. But no, it wouldn't have too much of an impact. Want to work out how much it may go up by next year on a sub account. Okay, so you just see what the balance on the sub account is and then apply a new interest rate to it. With buy-to-let mortgages in limited companies, how much generally is personal guarantee advice? How much generally is personal guarantee advice? You want someone to advise you on... I'm not sure I understand the question, I'm afraid. When I have an offer accepted, how long do they give you to show your deposit? They will probably want to see it straight away. They might not even let you put an offer in without seeing your deposit. Very much depends on the estate agent and what their processes are. But for me, if I was putting in your mortgage application, I'd want to see the proof of deposit before we put in the application so that we could shore up the numbers and know exactly what we're dealing with. Is a 1% mortgage worth it? Again, it depends who you ask. It comes down to personal need. If you need a 1% mortgage, then absolutely, it's worth it. It's very individual. What will happen if I don't declare my debt when applying for a mortgage in principle? It will probably decline it. Certainly when it goes through to application, it will decline it. Question dodger. I'm sorry, Bethany. They go through quite quickly. I don't see them. But thanks for the abuse. Why does solicitor want to see bank statements even after broker has checked it? Just to make sure that it's anti-money laundering. I assume they're looking for that to confirm where your deposit has come from. It's just anti-money laundering laws. Will being in an overdraft affect your mortgage? Not necessarily, as long as it's an agreed overdraft, and you are not going over limits or you're not bouncing direct debits, you should be all right. How much can 2 kids affect affordability? Very much depends on individual lenders as to how they assess them, how old they are, and that kind of thing. What fees do you charge for services? 349, payable when we get you a formal mortgage offer. What is a bridging loan? A bridging loan is a very short-term form of lending so that you can buy something, a property, and then perhaps do renovations on it and then refinance it with a remortgage for more it's worth. A bridging loan very much is a short-term form of lending. You would tend to get a bridging loan if you, for example, wanted to buy a property at auction, which was not, you couldn't get a mortgage on it, and then you're going to pay to do it up so it's habitable and then remortgage with a higher value of the property. How long does it take? Searches are back and inquiry raised to solicitor. That's one to ask your solicitor because they'll have a good idea about the speed of responses and stuff. What's the lowest deposit I would have to put down? 5% or £5,000. Oh, I'm sorry. The questions are flying through, so I'm really sorry if I missed them. Can you get a residential mortgage with a limited company? No. Unless it's... not really. I'd have to do some deep digging to see if it's possible. I'm a student. Can I get a mortgage? If you've got income, a form of viable income, not student loan, then you can do. There are a couple of building societies who actually do it where you can get a mortgage to live in with some housemates and they pay a rent and that can go towards the cost of it. So yeah, it is something that can be looked at. 95% mortgages, any good? Again, it depends who you're asking. If you only have a 5% deposit, then a 95% mortgage is clearly going to be quite appealing to you. There's quite a few lenders that do them. We have quite a lot of clients that take them. If there are 2 parties, one with Brilliant Finance and one with Medium, what chance of getting a mortgage? It would be based off the worst case credit file. But use a broker and they will match that with a lender who will probably lend. Do we need a solicitor to switch from residential to buy-to-let? Yes, because you will likely be changing the mortgage provider, so there's going to be a different different interested party to record on the deeds. Do lenders care if your spending has been high but not from recurring bills? No, I mean, what they're looking for mainly is things like committed expenditure, so loans, credit cards, all that kind of stuff, Klarna even. But if it's just general expenditure, take Christmas, for example, a lot of people are going to have relatively high spendings amounts. So they're making sure that you're not going over your overdraft limits, bills are being paid, there's no bounce direct debits, that kind of stuff. So no. Do brokers expect a council discount? I don't know what you mean. Right, can people stop spamming the comments because they fly through and I can't see them. How many additional fees come with buying a house? So largely you have your solicitor's fees, you may have a survey fee, you may have a broker fee, and that's about it. Can you get a guarantor for a right to buy mortgage? Potentially yes, you can do. Oh God. Right, brilliant. We're getting... Luke, good evening. You've just joined as we're getting spammed by a load of people. Can you get a 95% mortgage on a Visa? No. I think my loan to value should be lower than my mortgage lender says. Is there anything I could do? You can, but it's going to cost you money and may not be worth it. What you can do is pay for your own valuation and try and challenge it. But again, I wouldn't necessarily do it. Can you remortgage to consolidate credit card loans? You can do. So debt consolidation, yes, certainly something that can be done. Go through a broker because it's got to be done properly and there is regulatory stuff that needs to be done. Oh, how do we stop? How do I slow down these? Is there a way of... okay, cool. Is it better to pay Help to Buy loan interest after 5 years or remortgage for whole sum at the moment, do you think? Look, it's down to individual circumstances, but I think the whole idea of how the Help to Buy equity loan was, after 5 years you would remortgage and pay it back. It's another additional cost you're going to have to bear if you keep it there, and you're going to have to start paying the interest. I applied for a mortgage with Barclays. They have done a hard search, but saying my report is locked. Right, okay. Just sent an email. No worries. I'll pick that up. Crikey, it's going through so fast. How does remortgaging work to release money for home improvements? So you'd effectively remortgage and take additional borrowing. Now you have to be able to afford that additional borrowing. It's not just giving out money. But yeah, it's just increasing the amount you're borrowing. All has to be assessed, of course. My partner finishes an IVA next year. Would it be best to try a single mortgage? Yeah, if someone's got an IVA, you're going to be very, very limited for choice. In fact, there's one lender, but you're going to need a 30% deposit. Getting a mortgage whilst in an IVA, you don't want to go down that. Do lender do your personal affordability checks for buy-to-let purchase in a limited company? So if you're buying with a limited company, it's a new limited company, you're certainly going to need to use your details as a kind of as a director. You're going to be liable for it, so they will assess it on you as well. What's the minimum deposit required for buy-to-let? Generally 25%. Can you not remortgage based on the new value of the property? You do remortgage on the value of the current value of the property. What's the lowest deposit we can pay for a residential mortgage? 5% or £5,000. How much of an impact will having defaults on an application if they're 2 years old? Big impact. Big impact. Defaults, very big impact. You need to, again, make sure you use a broker with whole of market access to find a lender that will accommodate that, but you are going to be limited in your choice. Do you think interest rates are going up? I know they're going up. I see it. See the emails from lenders to say they are going up. Can you have more than one residential? You can do, as long as you can afford it. Yeah. Are interest rates going up? Just answer that one. 52k-ish deposit. 54k income between two people. What would be our price limit? Depends on your situation. It's very difficult to accurately answer that. So let's just go on cautiousness. So times the 54 by 4.5 and then add your deposit, and that's roughly what you might be looking at. Again, it needs to be properly assessed because there might be some committed expenditure, general costs of living to take off that. But yeah, that would be your rough. Probation from new job, will this affect mortgage acceptance? Possibly. It depends on the lender, but there are lenders who are happy with it. It just depends which lender comes up. It may slightly limit your choice, but you should be all right. Can you get a mortgage with a CCJ? Potentially, yes. Am I able to get a mortgage on a DMP? You can do, as long as you've been in it for at least 12 months and you've had no issues making the payments. I have until January 25 to submit my SA302 tax return. Mortgage company won't proceed without it. Yes, they are using the latest. They're using the 23-24 figures now. Can Klarna affect getting a mortgage? Yeah, I mean, if you have an existing Klarna account open and it's got a balance sitting on it that's going to be there while you go through the application, it might affect your affordability. I've seen people say that persistent use of Klarna can look negative in the lender's eyes, but you know, I think it's not a huge thing to worry about. I'm 19, looking at my first property. How much would you recommend for a deposit? At least 5%. The more deposit, the better, generally. Do lenders take allowances into account and bonus? Yes. Yeah, they all take it into account in differing ways. So if you get a bonus or commission from a lender, then you want to make sure you go with a lender that's going to take 100% of that into account. Some lenders might just take 50% of it. They will also average out your bonus over a few years to see what the sort of the average amount is. But yeah, make sure you speak to a broker and they can match you with a lender that's going to take as much of it as possible into account. Is independent mortgage better than joint? You mean sole mortgage better than joint? There's no difference. The only difference being the amount you can borrow, because on a joint application, you can make the most of 2 incomes and then multiples of that in terms of borrowing. With a sole application, it's clearly just the 1 income. But if you've got a massive income, then, you might be able to borrow what you need. If I make overpayments, does it go off the capital? Yes, but make sure you confirm to your lender that that's going to happen. Will having unused credit and savings accounts affect my mortgage application? If you're not using credit accounts, close them off, because there's 2 ways of looking at it. 1, you've got access to this money and you're not using it, which is great. 2, you have access to this money and you can rack up a load of debt. So I would say just close them off. If you're not using them, close it. Are rates expected to drop in November? So we might see the Bank of England base rate come down, but I'm not expecting fixed rates to change. Can you accept people's mortgages if they have great deposit but not a great credit history? We need to know the content of the credit history to match them with lenders that will go with it. Can I get a new phone contract before getting a mortgage? Yes. What do you need to do to get a mortgage in principle? So if you want it done properly, speak to a broker, send them your documents, do a fact find so they know the ultimate ins and outs of your situation, and then they will match you with the most suitable lender, and then they'll get the application in principle for you. Or you could just try and do it yourself, but the results are going to be very unreliable. Is there a different lending criteria if paying 5% deposit? Not necessarily lending criteria. Well, yeah, there are. I mean, there's a few things. For example, new builds generally no. The credit scoring. So when lenders are looking at credit files, they're going to want them to be very, very clean. So that's different. But apart from that, it's largely the same. What's the buy and sell strategy that helps end up with a nice big house after? What? Is JSPM, do you mean a JBSP, worth it? Yeah, if you want to maximize your borrowing potential and you've got someone who's willing to go on it with you, it's certainly a sensible way to do it. Will owning a credit card affect me remortgaging? Not having a credit card itself, if you've got a massive balance on there, it might affect how much you can borrow, but it just comes down to relativity. Say, do you have a big salary that you can still borrow what you need with the credit card balance sitting there, or is it going to have an impact? What broker do you recommend? You serious? Is there going up? What? If they're going up, is variable worse than a 2-year fixed moment? Mine's up in 4 months. Whatever you do, don't go on the lender's standard variable rates. That's the worst thing you could possibly do. I'm planning to buy my first house in 5 years. What do you advise to build that to that? Build a deposit and don't do anything that's going to scupper your credit file, I'd say. Can I buy a buy-to-let using the equity in my property already? You can do. So some lenders are generally all right with you taking equity out of your property to put down as a deposit on a buy-to-let. Is it better to have a local broker or does it not matter? I'm going to say it doesn't matter. We work with anyone anywhere in the UK. I don't know. We do everything over Zoom and telephone and email. To be honest, if you have a local broker, they're probably going to come and see you once and then do everything over the phone and email anyway. So I would say doesn't really matter. Hello. How long does it take for a broker to assess all documents and match to a lender? Well, Well, it's not. So our process would go, your documents come back, we then do the fact find, and then we go to the matching you with a lender. So it depends on sort of availability for you to get a call in with us, how long it takes to get your documents back. It's very difficult to say, but it doesn't take long. Our fees are $349, payable when we get you a formal mortgage offer. Does gambling affect your mortgage? Depends how much gambling. If it's a little bit of a flutter at the weekend, not really. If it's persistent, 20 quid a day or £10 a day, then it could potentially go against it. Can you buy a property if you're on universal credit? You can do. There are lenders that will take that as part of income, just not the housing element of it. Are you able to get a lower interest on a 40-ish% deposit? Yeah, so the lower interest rates are at 60% loan to value and below. That's where you're going to get the lowest interest rates. So if my partner is doing the mortgage as a single applicant, can I still contribute to the deposit? You can gift them the deposit, yes. Can I buy a buy-to-let property if my current is a shared ownership? I don't know. I don't know about that one. You'll have to... I don't know if that comes down to individual housing association terms and conditions. I'm not sure. Have to look deeper into that one. Can you get a mortgage on land? Yes. I got 6 defaults, but all paid. Will that affect me getting a mortgage? Yes, it will. As long if they're showing on your credit file, it will affect it. It doesn't necessarily mean you can't get a mortgage, but it will potentially affect your choice. So, as always, speak to a mortgage broker who's got access to the whole of the market. Can you privately rent on a residential property? No, you can't. To rent out on a residential mortgage, you have to have the consent to let from the lender. If they don't give that to you, you need a buy-to-let mortgage. If you do rent out on a residential property, that's mortgage fraud. They can quite easily repossess the house and put fraud markers against your name. Are they getting rid of right to buy? No, they're just changing the maximum discount you can get. So I think after the 21st of November, the maximum discount you can get on a right to buy is £38,000. That's reducing from 102,000 outside of London and 136 within London. Is it difficult selling a shared ownership property when you only own a portion, 30%, for example? I think it's known to be more difficult regardless of the share you have, because, of course, it's got to be sold through the shared ownership scheme. And there might be terms in there such as you've got to give the housing association first refusal. So I think it's one of the things, it can be a bit difficult to sell a shared ownership property. How much does BNPL, I assume you mean buy now, pay later, affect your chance of being approved? It's seen as a committed expenditure, so it will just affect your affordability. I don't have credit cards, but no other issues such as debt. Will this limit my chance of mortgage? No, there's a myth there. I think you do not have to have a credit card to get a mortgage. Absolutely not. If anything, it's good that you don't have a credit card when getting a mortgage, because lenders will see you've not got a credit card, and that's good. So yeah, that's a myth. Some people have started that rumor that you need to have a credit card. I think they mean you need some sort of credit footprint. But you'll have a credit footprint if you pay your utilities by direct debit, you have a mobile phone contract, your car insurance, that kind of stuff. You will have a credit footprint. Being on the electoral roll always helps. Do they take renting into consideration when you apply for a mortgage? No. They should, but they don't. I'm a mature student. I want to buy my sharehold flat I'm renting. Do I have a chance? You will need income. To get a mortgage, you need income. And that can't be loans. So if you've got income, you might stand a chance. Predictions on mortgage rates in the next 3 years. I mean, that is... I don't think anyone can answer it. It's personal opinion. I don't... My worry is I say a figure and then people say, oh, well, you said this. Well, it's... It's so difficult because the world is such a changeable place. You know, this week, who knows what president of the USA is going to come out of this? How's that going to affect global markets? How's that going to affect trade negotiations? How's that going to affect the economy? And therefore, all that, rates hang off the back of all that. So it's nigh on impossible to predict what the rates are going to be at the end of next year, let alone 3 years. I think potentially anything from like 3.5 to 4.5 in the fixed rate market. Do you think stamp duty will ever decrease? Well, the budget we've just had was sort of pitched as a repairing budget. So they've had to put in tax increases and all that kind of stuff. Who knows what will happen in the future? It's clearly a big area that they can please a lot of people with. A lot of people say, probably quite rightly, that stamp duty is a stupid tax. 1 second. Oh, excuse me. Oh, there it is. The first one was a bit of a false start. The second one was a proper one. So yeah, we could, who knows, we could potentially in the future see stamp duty totally abolished. Thank you, Angie. That's appreciated. So who knows on stamp duty? It would be I think it'd be a good vote winner if someone, mind you, manifestos are meaningless, aren't they? What's the benefit of a 35-year mortgage term rather than a 20 or 30? So the longer you spread your mortgage term over, the lower your monthly repayments. But if you let it run that whole time, you're going to pay more in interest. So straight off the bat, the longer term, the lower the payments. Disadvantage, the longer term, the more interest you pay. But something we discuss with our clients when discussing term and mortgage is what their plans are. If we stretched it out for as long as possible, the monthly repayments will be quite low, meaning there's potentially more cash available to make overpayments. Now, the overpayments will come off the capital of the loan, and then when your deal is up and you come to remortgage, you can take the term down and down and down a bit. So it's quite a nice strategy if you're a first-time buyer. Budgets might be tight. Spread it for as long as you can. Look to make overpayments and then bring it down. Obviously, circumstances dependent. Depends on what you want to do, but it's certainly something we do discuss with our clients. Thoughts on shared ownership for first-time buyers especially. So shared ownership, if you've got a normal way of buying a property, then that should be your first port of call. However, if you live somewhere where prices are extortionately expensive, shared ownership may only be the only option available to you. So fair play, let's look at that. 3 main costs you need to consider with shared ownership: your mortgage, your rent, and your service charge. Service charge is the one that often catches people out because they find it increases and increases year on year, and it's only one company it's paid to, so you can't shop around and get a better deal elsewhere. The rent will largely stay the same. Mortgage, you can obviously shop around, but that's based on market conditions. But do your research. Look at the costs. Look to see if you can do what's called staircasing if you want to buy more and more share as the time goes on. Look to see if there's any stipulations around selling it. It could be difficult to sell. Do your research is the main point there, and look at the costs. Can we do an overpayment at the end of our 5-year term before remortgaging? So what you do is just borrow less on your new mortgage and then pay the difference in money to the solicitor, and they'll take care of it. You might want to consider doing more regular overpayments, because on a lot of mortgages, interest is calculated daily. So if you made an overpayment today, the balance on which interest is charged tomorrow will be less, meaning you'd pay less interest. So more regular as opposed to lump sums might be a good thing to look at. I'm self-employed. When my fixed term ends, will my lender want to see 2 years books? If you're looking for a remortgage, possibly. It very much depends who the lender is, because there are lenders who will do it off 1 year books, 1 year's worth of books, but generally it's 2 or more. So it just depends. If you're looking to do a full remortgage, then you will need them. Can I make monthly extra payments towards capital? Yes, so overpayments pretty much are paying off the capital. Make sure you confirm that with your lender, though, to make sure they're taking it off the capital. Can I make payment any time towards my mortgage after paying the monthly amount? As long as you're... Yes, you can, but as long as you're lender allows you to make overpayments without an additional charge. Some don't. Some most likely set a limit as to how much overpayment you can make before they charge fees. So have a look at your mortgage paperwork. Most allow you to do about 10%. There's a couple that do 20. Some actually define a monetary figure as to how much you can overpay. But yeah, have a look at your paperwork and confirm that first. When is the time I need to think about not fixing my mortgage to avoid a 10% penalty? I don't understand your question, sorry. Can I get a mortgage, only move to UK less than a year? No, you need to be in the UK at least 12 months. It also depends on your visa. Our house is 525. Our mortgage is 240. Is 4.52 if it's good? I don't know any of the other circumstances around that, I'm afraid. So I can't comment. Would consent to let change the mortgage interest on your mortgage, or the mortgage stays the same? Some lenders will put an additional rate on. Some can put up to 1% extra on your rate for the privilege of having consent to let. So yeah, most likely they will do. If we paid, say, 2,000 overpayment, does it shorten the term or lower the payments? You will, so it won't, if you're in a fixed term, it won't do anything there and then. It's when you come to remortgage at the end of your fixed term that you'll find that the balance is less. So therefore you can either keep it over the same term and see what happens with the payments, or shorten the term and bring years off. You'll see the benefit at remortgage stage. What is better, consent to let or change to a buy to let? Depends what your situation is. Not every lender gives consent to let, and it's down to their own discretion as to whether they do or don't on individual circumstances. If you are wanting to rent out your property properly as a landlord, then buy to let is the way to go. And there's other considerations behind that you might want to look at as well. Are swap rates increasing going to push interest rates up this week? So if the swap rates increase, they could potentially increase fixed rates. Yes. Working full time, receiving benefits, getting a house will stop the universal credit. I don't know. I'm not a benefits advisor. You'd need to ring DWP, I think, to confirm that one. Can I open a new business and get a house buy to let with 20k deposit? Depends on what that equates. If that equates to 25% deposit, then yeah, you can open a limited company, open it as an SPV and do it that way. Yes, but it's not the monetary amount, the 20k. It's what that represents in a percentage of the deposit. Credit wise, what score do you need to be? Credit score is irrelevant. It's the whole credit history we look at. So the content of your credit file. If you want a free check my file report, check out the link in my TikTok bio to go and get a free one. And then you can see your whole credit history for the last 6 years, what we look at. 25% is a must. Pretty much if you're a new landlord, new limited company, yes. No worries, Mr. Zigzag. Thanks for commenting. Appreciate that. Tap the likes if you can. That might get some more people on board. Don't forget to follow, because go live regularly. And of course, get in touch. We can help you out. Got good availability. Got loads of advisors to help you out. So do feel free to do that. How long is a mortgage application to approve with Halifax? I've known Halifax to offer within 24 hours. I've known them to take a few weeks. So it very much depends on the application. Do you need a 25% deposit instead of a 10% deposit? Is if one of the applicants is on a spouse visa. It very much depends on the situation. Is the other applicant a British national? Will affect it. What type of visa they've got. It needs to be properly assessed. How long does it take to buy an account on a business account? Do you mean a by it's a British national, then all other requirements go out the window. It's fine. If as long as one of them's a British national, then it's fine. 10%. If I was to use your services, how much would it cost? £349 British pounds, payable when we get you a formal mortgage offer. So it's not up front. It's once you've got something to show for it as well. Can a person 1 year self-employed get a mortgage? Yes, you can. We have a few lenders who will do it off 1 year's accounts. If you have property outside the UK, Latvia, could it still be a first-time home scheme? No, you're not a first-time buyer. At what point do you pay a deposit? On exchange of contracts. Oh, stretch my back. Stretchy back. No, well, see, that's the... so, Stephanie, that's the problem. If you just go direct to the bank, they tell you what their criteria is. If you go to a mortgage broker, we match you with lenders that will accommodate it. Married couple, average household income about 70. One with good credit and one with awful credit. I'm afraid it goes off the awful credit. Is there much difference between putting down 5 or 10%? Yes, so difference in rate, difference in lender choice, and obviously difference in repayments. Do estate agents charge for the same ID checks that your solicitor do later on? I don't know. It depends what the estate agents are a law unto themselves. Honestly, don't. Estate agents are awful. 50k income outgoing, 1,200 including rent and council tax. How much can I borrow? Times your 50 by 4.5. It depends what situation you are. I can't give an accurate answer, I'm afraid. It needs to be properly looked into because it depends what your situation is. Depends what those outgoings are. But general rule of thumb is if you times your income by 4.5, then that's roughly what you can borrow. I rent a house out. If I was to sell, there's 40k equity in it. How much will I owe tax capital gains? You need to speak to an accountant or a tax advisor. I can't give that advice, I'm afraid. I am British. My wife should be British soon, around 8 months from now. Good. Does it worth to wait? Depends what you're looking to do. My mortgage is up for renewal soon. Do I have to pay any solicitor's fees? If you are remortgaging, you might do, but a lot of lenders will include it for free in their remortgage offers. So Sheena, get in touch and we can look at it for you. Work in NHS and I'm 49 years old. Can I get a mortgage for 20 years? Yes, quite likely. Highest multiple income lenders offer. So you can get 6 times your income, but again, it's very individual circumstance. Oh, what was I going to say? Dependent. That's the word. No worries, Diana. Feel free to get in touch. We can have a chat. Always here to help. If a couple get a mortgage, one with perfect credit score, one with poor, is that possible? So when you talk about score, that doesn't really help. We need to know the specifics of what's on the credit score, what's on the credit file, what's behind the poor credit score, and then we can match you with appropriate lenders. I'm not saying it's impossible. We've got access to a whole range of lenders who will accommodate a multitude of different credit adverse situations. So yeah, it's just dependent. If you want to get a look at your credit report, your credit file, you can get a free Check My File report using the link in my TikTok bio. Need a new mortgage? Go with 1 or 2 year fixed. Can't answer that on TikTok. 162 from bank to play with. Want a bungalow? Do I go max budget or lower? I don't know. It's up to you, isn't it? My partner's owned a home before, but I'm a first-time buyer. Would I get first-time benefits? No. If you're buying as a couple, you would lose any benefits of first-time buyers. And that's really only the higher threshold in stamp duty. Do you have availability for new clients? Absolutely. We've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes, taking on new advisors, streamlining processes. So yeah, happy to take on new work all the time. God, someone's fireworks are going mad. Wow, someone's going for it. What amount should we left on mortgage to stop, fix, and continue? Do you think I could get a 400k house with a 60k salary and 31% deposit? So 400, take away 31% is 276. And what did you say? 60k, was it? You should be able to, dependent on your situation. Are you a first-time buyer? Do you have a good credit file? Then, yeah, it could be done. My mortgage expires end of January. 3.79. Can I get a good short fixed rate with a port? Not 3.79, I don't think. Depends on your loan to value. It depends on your circumstances. Will looking at credit files affect my credit score? No, it won't. No, it's fine. What is rate lowering scheme? I don't know what you're asking, I'm afraid. We've just been accepted on a 5.5 year fixed. Is that decent? It's high. There might be a reason behind that, though. So that's the thing. I can't really comment. All I can say is high, which suggests to me there's a reason behind that. I've got 2 accounts in default. Would I get a mortgage? Will the interest be reasonable? It depends on whether they're satisfied, how long ago they were. You're certainly not going to get a mortgage through the mainstream lenders, but you could potentially get a mortgage. You just need to get it assessed. What's the lowest rate going? Depends on your situation. I couldn't possibly say. Would you suggest going through different mortgage advisors? No, we all have access to the same rates. All I would say is make sure the one you go with has access to the whole of market, so they don't operate off a restricted lender panel. Oh, glad I caught you. I've been recommended a Perenna mortgage because I get more thoughts. Perenna, yeah, I've been speaking to Perenna recently. Interesting offering. So you can fix it for the whole term of the mortgage, but you can come out of it after 5 years. Can be expensive. The rates are high though. Right, I'm afraid I have to go because my little people have just returned home from school. So thank you for the questions. Please follow and please do feel free to get in touch if we can help you with anything. But thank you for joining me. Really appreciate it. Have a great evening. Enjoy the fireworks if you like that kind of thing. But yeah, don't forget to follow. And yeah, Perenna is just a different mortgage company. Feel free to get in touch and I can tell you more. So yeah, thank you all. You're all welcome, by the way. You're all more than welcome. Just, yeah. Excellent. Well done, Frank. I forgot you here. Actually, while you're here, Frank, seeing as you're an absolute troll, I'm just going to block you now. There we go. I apologise. Frank is a persistent troublemaker we've had, but he's been blocked now, so he won't be bothering us again. Anyway, thank you all very much. Enjoy your evening, and yeah, hopefully speak to you soon.